lovely mother.
Hi, I'm Janette.
And I'm super excited because today we are going to recap my Universal days. So we went to Disney World the last week of February, and the last 2 days of that trip was spent in Universal. So mainly it's just me and my fiance. We spent our time in Universal.
Yeah, because Joe and I really have no want to go to Universal.
Yes.
I don't go on all those rides. It would be a waste of my money.
Yes, and I haven't told my mom really a whole lot about Universal. I was kind of saving
I waited
it
for the
this
podcast.
Yes. So at this point, we've recorded 3 episodes because I did the Princess Half Marathon on this trip. Then we did 3 days in Disney, and now we're at the final leg of the trip, which is our 2 days
been talking
in Universal.
a lot.
Yes. So at this point, my parents had actually already left Florida because my mom got sick. So
I went home.
Good thing she wasn't planning on coming to Universal anyway.
Right.
So we're going to get into all of the nitty gritty of Universal. I'm going to go over some of my own tips and tricks and things and things that I think is good to know. I want to note for this podcast as well, if you're listening in the near future, Epic Universe was not open at this time when we were going. There weren't even previews yet for Epic Universe. So we're not going to talk about Epic Universe at all. So this is only going to be for Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. So the OG parks, I would say. And we didn't go to Volcano Bay, which is the water park. We didn't do that either. So just the main 2 parks, I would say. So we were staying at Bay Lake Towers in Disney World, and my fiance drove down to Florida. So because he drove down, we had his car. So we chose to drive over to the parks. So parking is $32 for the day. Now, if you were going to take an Uber, it's between $35 to $45 or $50, depending upon the time of day and what car you get and stuff like that. So if we had done an Uber both ways, it obviously would have been more, which is why we chose to drive over for the $32 parking. So when you get over there, basically for the both parks, you park in the same parking garage. I guess I should start off by quickly saying that I had only been to Universal once 11 years ago, and then once when I was a very small child. So technically this is my 3rd time in Universal, but my 1st time as an adult. So I don't have a lot of memories, obviously, from when I was a child. And when I went 11 years ago, a lot of the stuff that's now open wasn't open 11 years ago. So it was very different. And I only spent 1 day in the parks. We did park to park, and there was only 1 day park to park. So we squeezed everything into 1 day. So we were going for 2 days this time to try to do everything because I hadn't been in 11 years. I was very excited to see the parks. So that's why when we got there, I'm kind of go over it as if, you haven't been to Universal as well, things I was also learning too. So there's this big parking structure that you park in, basically. You park in the big parking structure, and you have to walk through City Walk to get to the parks. City Walk is kind of like Universal's Disney Springs, but a much smaller scale. There's really, in comparison, it's maybe a 4th of the size, honestly. It's much smaller.
There's a lot of restaurants next to each other.
Yeah, basically. And I feel it's the vibe is very different in Universal. It's hard to explain, but it's very different. It's very much more almost like Atlantic City, to a certain extent. The big signs, the big lights, kind of things like that.
Yeah, because it's mostly just restaurants with a couple of stores stuck in between.
There was this 10-foot sign for Panda Express. It was wild.
Yeah.
So, their security is much more traditional. It's more of an airport security. You have to take everything out of your pockets. You put your items on the little bag, and then goes through a little scanner. And then you walk through a metal detector. Now, when I walked through the metal detector, my Apple Watch set the metal detector off. I had to go back over, and he had me cover my Apple Watch with my hand, and I walked back through, and it was fine.
That's interesting.
Now, I had to walk through other metal detectors in the parks, which we'll get into, but every time I walked through, I always had to cover my watch, or else it would have set the metal detector off. So I guess that's good to know that watches will set it off, which is interesting because my watches never set it off in an airport. So these are very sensitive metal detectors. Yeah. So we purchased our tickets in advance. So we purchased 2-day park to park with Express Pass Unlimited. So for 2 people, for the 2-day park to park Express Pass Unlimited, basically the top tier ticket you could possibly get. Actually, I guess not, because we didn't have Volcano Bay. I think Volcano Bay is the top tier Express ones. Well, if you're not doing the water park, these are the top tier ones. Was $1,340 for me and my fiance for 2 of us. So this is just for 2 days. Now we did choose to do the Express Pass Unlimited. Express Pass is what it's called, and then they have regular Express Pass and Express Pass Unlimited. And what that means is that when you're going to the parks, if the ride has an Express Pass lane or a lightning lane from Disney, on regular Express Pass, you can only use the Express Pass once. So they scan your ticket, and let's say you go on Velocicoaster, you go on once, and then that's it. You can't use the Express Pass again. You'd have to do standby if you want to go on a second time. Express Pass Unlimited means you can go on the same ride multiple times. If you just want to do Velocicoaster every single, you get off, you get back on, you could keep going through the Express Pass lane, essentially. And we chose to do this pass because, again, I hadn't been to the parks in 11 years. I really wanted the full experience. If there was a ride I wanted to go on a second time, I was I want to go on a second time for the ride. We're just going to get the Express Pass Unlimited. So I will get to my thoughts on Express Pass Unlimited, stuff like that towards the end. But just to note, we did have it. The only other thing about Express Pass is that unlike Disney, there is no callback time. So you can just get on any Express Pass. It does say when you purchase Express Pass that it is not a skip the line pass. It is just an express line. So it's just a shorter line is all it is. So it's not saying, whereas I think lightning lanes in Disney are marketed a bit more as skipping the line. These ones are just saying you're going on a shorter line, and it does say you may still wait between 30 to 40 minutes for a ride on Express Pass. So you may still be waiting on a line. It's just going to be a slightly shorter line than like the regular line. So all that to say. So I did, again, I wanted the full experience. So we bought the 2-day park to park. We also wanted park to park too, because I want to do the Hogwarts Express train. Like Harry Potter, you're going to find out very quickly, is the main reason why we're going to these parks. So when we got to the park, it said on like the email with my QR code that I had to get the tickets at will call. There were no other options when I purchased the tickets. It was like will call and nothing. So I was like, all right, will call it is. We wanted to go to Islands of Adventure first, because that is where Hogsmeade and the Harry Potter castle is. So we went over to Islands of Adventure. When you're walking through City Walk, it is more towards like if you go straight into the left, whereas if you want to go to Universal Studios first, you will make like a hard right essentially. I say that because there were like no signs. You kind of just follow the people, and then there's like, you know, the big things that you kind of see, like the big, you know, Islands of Adventure sign. That's how I saw and figured it out. When we got down there, the will call kiosk was to the right. There was like one small sign that said will call kiosk this way. I was like, wow, very organized. We went down there, surprisingly no line, even though it was like a Wednesday, so there's no line for the kiosk. However, when we got to the kiosk, you had to, so again, I had the QR code. It said scan your QR code at the kiosk or at the person, and the kiosk itself insisted that you had to use the credit card that you paid for, like to put the credit card in, and it would know like the charge that was on the credit card. I've seen that happen before, but the thing is though, is that I paid with my virtual cards, which means there is no physical credit card for that, because I paid with my virtual credit card, not like my physical credit card. So I was like, well, I can't do that because I don't have that. So I was trying to scan the QR code. It was not working. Luckily, there was a man at a podium there, so we just went up to him and be like, I have a QR code. It's not scanning. He scanned it for us. Very quick and very simple. He scanned it. He like read off, this is what you have, the Express Pass Unlimited. He printed off the tickets. The tickets were like those classic little pieces of paper that you used to get like in Disney World for the Fast Pass. Like the little flimsy pieces of paper, no film or anything to protect it or anything like that, which is ironic because he said for the Express Pass, you will need to show this pass every single time you go on Express Pass.
Okay.
So they
for
can
2 days, you had to be
pass.
taking out this piece of paper.
So we were like, wow. So here we have this little flimsy piece of paper that we must protect to use our Express Pass. That is when you realize why other people are wearing lanyards that do Express Pass, because they will keep their pass in their lanyard, which makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So getting into the park took 20 minutes. It's like 9 a.m. So right when the park opens, the park was open 9 to 7. So 9 a.m. it took us 20 minutes to get in. Although I will say, I think we were on the slow line. So I think other people probably only took them 10 to 15 minutes. And for us, we were on the absolute slowest line possible.
Of course.
Everyone in our line was saying this line is not moving. It wasn't just us noticing this. It was very obvious that our line was not moving. So when we got to the front, when you actually get into the park, part of the reason why I think it was taking so long was that to get in, they take a photo of you. So like a full body photo, not just like a headshot, like a full like waist up, like knees up photo, depending upon your height, a photo. After they take the photo, then because it was my first time coming to the park, then she had to scan my tickets. And then she scanned my little ticket and I got in. When we went back the next day, the photo was all they needed. So they just took the photo and they recognized it was me and I got into the park. Now I think in theory, Express Pass had those cameras as well, because every Express Pass we went into had the little camera for the
comes
same
up
photo,
and shows your picture.
but none of them were working. Literally not a single one was working. So they just had a person scan your little piece of paper, which I thought was funny. I feel like they thought in theory this technology would be great, but then in practice apparently it didn't work. So I was like, okay, because in theory then if you didn't need if it was always based on a photo of yourself, then you would never need to bring your pass with you, and there was no reason for a pass.
Right.
But there was a reason for a pass because we had Express Pass. Obviously, if you don't have Express Pass, then maybe you don't need it for that reason. But I thought it was kind of interesting that it was based on this photo. I also think the photo took a long time. I feel like it was not very quick and easy. I don't know. I think they thought it was quick and easy, but I personally did not think it was quick and easy. So, all right. So now we're in Islands of Adventure. Both parks at Universal are structured as a circle. So they're both circles around like a little body of water. And that means that in order to get to the other side of the park, you have to walk through the whole circle. Like you can't just cut across. So like, for instance, even in like Magic Kingdom, for instance, if you want to get to like Be Our Guest or like one of the things in the corner, you can kind of like cut through the park a little bit, get through.
Because there's water, you can't do it.
Yeah, because there's water, you can't. It's a full-on circle type of park. So it's more similar to like the World Showcase. Like you can't just get to the American Pavilion. You have to walk all the way around to get to the American Pavilion. So our first up, of course, was Harry Potter World. That was the main reason why we're going here. So we went to the right. So you walked into Islands of Adventure, you go to the right, and then first you walk through the Dr. Seuss land. And I will say this land is really cool. Like if you're a big Dr. Seuss fan, it looks so cool. It's very big. It's very colorful. It was empty because the park had just opened and everyone skipped it. If I'm being really honest.
Harry Potter, right?
It has mainly kiddie rides. There was like a carousel. There's like this little train ride and stuff like that. They do have a green eggs and ham cafe, which is really cool. But yeah, we walked right through this land. Just skipped the whole thing, walked right through it. The next land is called the Lost Continent. What's funny is that on the Universal Studios app, which I downloaded as we were standing in there being like, wow, maybe I should download the app for this park. I'm sure it's intuitive. I downloaded the app and the Lost Continent wasn't even on the app. It wasn't because they have all their lands like in different colors on the app. It wasn't even on the app, which I thought was really interesting. I ended up Googling it afterward to be like, what's this land called? Because as you enter the land, it's very obvious you're in like the Greek gods type land. And there's this big structure of like a god and like a waterfall coming out of his mouth, which just makes it look like he's throwing up, which I thought was was really funny. I feel like in theory that idea was really cool, but I'm like, this statue is just perpetually throwing up water. I don't know. So, and apparently there is a ride in this area called Poseidon's Fury, but I'm assuming it was closed because it wasn't on the app. It wasn't anywhere. No one was in this area. There was like one restaurant in the area, and then that was it. So we just walked right through it, and then we got to Hogsmeade. Hogsmeade, I truly think is absolutely stunning. It is so cool once you get to Hogsmeade. Again, 11 years ago when I went to Harry Potter World, I remember just being like awed about how amazing it is. And I think the pros for Hogsmeade and like both Universal parks in general is that they're all based off movies. So it's all based off very visual things that you've seen in the movies. So to see it in person is just so
familiar.
Amazing. Yes, it's very familiar in that sense. Yeah, I agree. It's like when I first saw Radiator Springs in Disney's California Adventure Park, it was insane. So it's like, I didn't know this existed. And it's like, it's so real because it's what you saw in the movie.
Right.
So I really, it's so stunning when you see it. Now I do think it's really funny because they decided to do this area as if it was like a snowy, like Hogsmeade, which I guess a lot of Harry Potter does take place in the winter and it's like in England. So it's often cold there, but Florida never really snows in Florida. So I always think it's ironic that they chose to do a snowy scape for in an area that is perpetually sunny and hot. So you're looking at these buildings with this fake snow on it and you're like melting away in the sun.
Yes. It's supposed to immerse yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's what Ted was. He was like, maybe it's like for maintenance. It's like easier for maintenance to have the snow. I was like, I don't know. So we literally got there and we honestly just walked around, I think for like 15 minutes first. We did nothing but just walk around for a little bit just because we were both in such awe and it was just so exciting. And I remember 11 years ago, me and my best friend Shannon, we went on the castle ride. So I forget exactly what it's called. It's called like the Forbidden Journey or something like that in the castle, like the Hogwarts castle. And I remember it being the coolest ride I had ever been on my entire life. I thought it was so phenomenal when I went on that ride. And that was the first thing I wanted to do when we got here, was to go on the castle ride to see like if it was as amazing as I remembered it being. And so when we got there, the ride was already closed. I don't even think it opened. So it was only like 9-10 in the morning. Ride was closed. They were like, the ride is delayed. It's not open.
Gosh.
We took some photos around the castle. They were turning everyone away, being like, it's not open. They were like, check the app to see when it's open. So that's when I went on the app. And that is when I found out the app to me is not intuitive at all. I guess if you're used to the app, it would be intuitive, or maybe I'm just very used to the Disney app. But I've used the Busch Gardens app before, and I've used the Hershey Park app, and I've used the Six Flags app, and I found this one to like not be great in my personal opinion. Now I do realize too, you can patent certain things. So for instance, like Netflix has patented the way like their setup is online. So that's why other like streaming services can't have as good of a setup as Netflix is, for instance. So I wonder if that's partially the problem. So for instance, I couldn't find on the app how to figure out if the ride was open or not. Like I was getting very confused how it worked. When I clicked on the wait times like didn't make any sense to me at first. It was just a list of rides, and it took me a second to realize how it works. Once I realized how it works, it was fine. But for instance, if you go on the map view of the app, you can see the park. Then you see these little dots essentially, and the dots are icons, but I didn't know what the icons meant, and they don't have the name. You have to tap the icon, and then it tells you what the ride is. When you tap the icon, it doesn't tell you what the wait time is. It tells you nothing. It just kind of tells you like, this is the ride. It's a thrill ride. It's a motion ride, like the type of ride it is, like, and like the height requirements. Right. Yeah. But I was like in the Disney apps and a lot of other apps, when you go on the map, you can see the wait times in the map itself.
Right.
So that's why I didn't understand how the wait times was working. And then I realized in the wait times, it was a list of rides. What it would do, it said 10 to 15 minutes. Here are the rides that had a wait time of 10 to 15 minutes, but it didn't actually tell you what the wait times were.
Okay. It just told you they were in that category range. Okay.
So that's how it did. It did it all based on the category, like 15 to 30, 30 to 45 or something like that, and so forth. And all the rides were just categorized in that way. When you also first open the app, it kept defaulting to both parks at once. So even though I was in Islands of Adventure, the default was always both parks at the same time, which is not, I think, is a bad thing, but it was confusing because if you don't really know both parks, I was looking at it being like, wait, is this ride even in this park? And it wasn't. It was in the other park. But I'm not familiar enough with the parks to know where these rides are. So like I'm getting confused looking at this app being like, where are these rides? Like, how do I find it? If you tap on the ride in the wait list, it doesn't tell you exactly where it is. You have to go back to the map and then figure it out. Because again, on the map, you have to tap on each individual.
There's a lot of time going back and forth.
Yeah, especially if you're not familiar with the park, which I was not familiar with the park. This is my first time there in 11 years. And sure, maybe I should have looked at the map a little bit more before I went. But I mean, like, I thought it would have been a little bit more intuitive. So anyway, I figured it out very quickly as we were there. But I just want to note that maybe it's worth looking at the app for a long period of time if you're the planner in the family. So you're not just like kind of figuring it out once you're there, which is usually my preferred method to do. So anyway, so the Hogwarts ride was closed, like the Hogwarts Castle ride was closed. So right next to it is this little like kid coaster, I would say, for the hippogriffs. So my mom doesn't know anything about Harry Potter, but the hippogriffs is basically a creature in Harry Potter. It's like a big creature that happens in Harry Potter. And so we went on the hippogriff coaster first. We did have express pass for it. And so we went on. It was very fun. It was very cute. There's this really cool hippogriff animatronic that's like on the ride. Like you can see it in the cube, and then when you're on the ride, you get really close to it. And I will say all the animatronics in the park were phenomenal. Like I will say their animatronics are really good. And I did love the hippogriff animatronic. So cool. So after this point, so I will say too, I didn't really take a lot of notes for this. So we're really going off the cuff. I'm just going to look at my photos and we're just going to tell the story as it is. Let me tell tell you something, because I took a lot of notes for the other two podcasts, and when I got to this one, I ran out of steam. So, but all right. So after that though, so we went on the hippogriff ride. It was very fun. And then when we came out, we were like, let's go through all the stories. So we went through all those stories. We went through Ollivanders, and we went through Honeydukes, and we went through, again, like every little, like I forget what the clothing store is called, but we went through the little clothing store. Ted actually got a beer at that point, even though it was only 10 a.m. He was like, I'm going to get a beer. I'm like, okay. So he got a beer as I went through all the little stores. And I will say, I felt like some of the items were very expensive when we were in there. So for instance, there was the little love potion that was in Honeydukes. So the love potion's like a thing in Harry Potter, just so my mom knows. And so it was in the cutest little bottle. And I was like, this is so cute. I love it. And it said inside of it, so Honeydukes is like a candy store in, you know, like a sweet store in Harry Potter world. So, and that was my favorite store. I loved Honeydukes. I thought it was so cute. I thought all the stuff in there was so cute. I loved everything, how immersive it was. It was so fun. And so the little love potion bottle was so cute. I really wanted just for the bottle, for the keepsake. And it was this big. I'm showing my mom. It was maybe, how big is that? 3 inches tall, 4 inches tall, maybe 5 inches at the most, I would say, by like maybe 2 or 3 inches. And it was $12. And I was like, this is very small for like a very small thing that is very obviously very cheap for $12. And it did say the candy inside of it was like a liquid candy. And I was just like, I don't know, this seems kind of expensive. So I was like, I toyed around it for a while, but I ended up not getting it in the end. And part of me kind of wishes I did get it because the bottle is really cute, but I was just like, no, I don't need that for $12. That is wild. They also had the Felix Felicis as well in another bottle, but that bottle couldn't stand up on its own. So I feel like if that one was a bottle like that could stood up on its own, that's like the liquid luck. So it's like a potion that you can take and you feel really lucky when you take it. That bottle was really cool, but it was like in a little teardrop shape. So because it's a teardrop shape at a point, it can't stand on its own. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this? But that one was a really cute bottle too. So we'll see, all their stuff was so cool and so immersive, and it was so fun, but it was very expensive. I remember 11 years ago, me and Shannon had the chocolate frog, and it tasted horrible.
Oh, I
it tasted so bad.
Yes, you said
it tasted horrible.
Yes.
And I've seen other videos of people also say that the chocolate frogs taste horrible. So we did not get a chocolate frog. So I was just, I'm not wasting like $20 in this chocolate frog for it to taste horrible. So we didn't get that. We actually ended up getting no sweets at all at the end of the day. There was this really cute cupcake that I almost got, but it was very early in the morning. I wasn't really that hungry for like a cupcake, so I didn't get it. But I kind of wish I did get it to a certain extent because it was really cute, but it's okay. We didn't get anything. So we ended up, so Ted got his beer. So then we want to do Hagrid's coaster. So we wanted to, and Hagrid's coaster is the one that's notorious. Everyone says is like the best coaster. I've heard for so many people who've never seen Harry Potter, everyone says it's one of the best coasters they've ever been on.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, that was like one of our number one rides was Hagrid's coaster. So we get online for Hagrid's coaster, no express pass. So you just got on the regular line. So okay. And it said it was 150 minutes to get on.
How come it didn't use an express?
Some of the rides just don't have express pass. This was for us. This was the only ride we went on that didn't have express pass. I think it's just because it's such a high in demand ride that they just don't do express pass. So I'm not sure. So we got online. Ted had his beer. So I was like, that's fine. Like you have your beer. So he's like, we have time. The queue was really cool. You basically go through like the outskirts of the castle, like the ruins sort of the castle, like things like you see Hagrid's hut. Amazing to see Hagrid's hut. You see like more things like for the hippogriffs. You see like things for like, you know, like inside of like his workshop and everything. Really cool like queue, honestly. I did have fun. And because there was no express pass lane, like it was constantly moving. Like you were always like, you know, scooting ahead. So that was really cool. And that was great. We ended up only waiting, I think 50 minutes. So the thing said like 150 minutes and we waited 50 minutes. So the wait wasn't really that bad. Cause at first we were like, well, if it's over 2 hours by the time we're done, like it's around 10 right now, it's like, we'll be done by noon and then we can get lunch. So like we were sort of planning the day. So by the time we were done, it was only 11. So we're like, oh, well, then we'll get lunch just at 11. So a lot of early lunches for us. So when we get onto the ride is sort of kind of like, you know, we get on Haunted Mansion and it's like the conveyor belt and then you get on the Doom Buggy. That's how a lot of their roller coasters are set up like that, where it's like the coaster doesn't just stop. It's like sort of on like this rolling thing and then you walk on the rolling thing and then you get on it, which is very interesting. So I'll say too, the big thing about Hagrid's coaster. So in the movies, Hagrid has a motorcycle with a little sidecar, and that's what like the coaster is a motorcycle with a sidecar. And so what's funny is that everyone always says that the motorcycle is really fun because it's like you're on a motorcycle and then you go through the ride like on the motorcycle as if you're Hagrid. And then it was funny because we were going back and forth. We have our friends, and whenever they go on, like I said I want to do Hagrid's twice so we could both experience the motorcycle part. And my friend was just like, oh, well, the sidecar is still fun too. And I could tell that her husband's just never let her be on the motorcycle part. But the motorcycle, and for some of the other rides too, it's not like Tron where it's like you're actually on a motorcycle. It's just like a little seat with a little motorcycle thing in front of you that you just pull towards you.
Oh, okay. So it's not like you're on a motorcycle.
Yeah, it's not actually like you're on a motorcycle. Like you can hold the little handlebars, obviously, and the sidecar is a little bit lower than the motorcycle, of course. But like it's not like Tron. Like I thought it was going to be like Tron, where you're like mounting the motorcycle and you're on the motorcycle. No, you're just in a little seat and you just pull the thing forward towards you. So it's more accessible in that way, because I know Tron, it's like, you know, there are certain people that like wouldn't be able to fit into Tron, or again, like disability wise, if you can't swing your leg over and stuff like that, it's like not everyone can do Tron. So in this sense, everyone can just sit on the little motorcycle, pull the thing in front of it, and hold on to the handlebars. And the handlebars are kind of far away. ride. Like you do have to lean forward to reach the handlebars. So, and I will say Hagrid's ride, absolutely phenomenal. Definitely everything that everyone has hyped it up to be. I did think it was one of the coolest rides. There are, and like I don't want how many spoilers we're going to get into for this. So I will say we won't do spoilers for this ride because I do think it's one of the biggest rides in the park. So no spoilers for this ride, I'll say, but I do think it is one of the coolest rides. It is worth the wait, whatever it may be to go on. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it. There's a lot of cool elements with the ride, a lot of surprises in the ride, a lot of like Harry Potter lore as well in the ride too, which I think makes it really fun. So 100% worth the wait. I can tell you, Mom, about it later, like more of the spoilers parts of it. But we'll skip that for now just for this podcast. Okay. So, but definitely worth it. After Hagrid's ride, we went over to the Three Broomsticks to get our lunch. So I realized, oh my gosh, we're already 20 minutes into this podcast. I gotta go a little faster. So we're only at like 11 a.m. on the first day.
She's still got a day and a half.
So we go over to the Three Broomsticks. We're at the Three Broomsticks. There is a problem with the ordering. So you order on the app. So essentially when you get there, it's interesting because they say, the guy tells us like, you're going to order on your phone. So I was like, okay, when we sit down, there's a QR code for our table. So we order the food on our phone. We say which table we're sitting at, and then we just wait. And then we're waiting a long time. Everyone else is getting their food around us. And this is marketed as like a quick service type of restaurant. And so now we're waiting like 20, 30 minutes for our food. So Ted finally gets up, goes to figure out what's going on. Long story short, we wait about 40 to 45 minutes for the food. Essentially, I ordered the leek and potato soup and they didn't have it on hand. They had to like get the leek and potato soup from another location, but it was like late to coming to their kitchen, just like the way it was that day. So I ended up switching it out for the butternut squash soup, which was fine. They gave me an extra salad and like a little scone on the side as well. I did not pay for the soup and salad combo. I just paid for the soup. So they gave me the free salad with it, which I'm sure didn't cost so much money anyway. But right. They gave us extra food, and Ted got the ribs platter and like some chicken platter as well. Ted said the food was very good. And I will say the butternut squash soup wasn't bad. It was pretty good. The scone thing they gave it to me was horrible. It was so dry. It was so bad. That was not very good. The salad was a salad. And we also got a side of French fries, and they gave us 2 sides of French fries again because the food was taking so long. I think they were just giving us more stuff. French fries were good as well. Nothing to complain with that. Ted got a beer, and then I got a butterbeer. So we have been to the Harry Potter, the actual set in England before, and we toured the actual set in England. And when we were there, we both got butterbeer in little souvenir cups, I remember. And when we had the butterbeer, we both took a sip at the same time, and we were like, wow, this tastes horrible. This does not taste good. Neither of us like the butterbeer. So
why did you get another butterbeer?
So I've heard that in Florida, the frozen butterbeer is like the top tier. Everyone says the frozen butterbeer is the best, then the hot butterbeer, and then the regular butterbeer. So I was like, okay, let me get the frozen butterbeer because I've heard it's very good. So I got the frozen butterbeer. The first few sips were very good, but I will say I did not finish it. I only drank maybe a fourth of the drink. This like $8 drink, less than the blue milk in Hollywood Studios, mind you.
But still not worth it.
Yeah, less money than the blue milk, but yeah, definitely still not worth it. I would say I like the taste of the blue milk way better. I still rather get the blue milk over the butterbeer. Just personal preference for me, I think. So yeah, so I didn't really love the butterbeer. I did eat and drink enough of it, you know, to make it worth it and to make sure that I didn't like it. And also I offered it to Ted. Ted did not even want to try it because he remembered it from England from like 3 years ago. He was like, no, I'm not having that. Yeah. So that horrible drink I had 3 years ago. But yeah, so we had that. So after we had our lunch there, the lunch cost $57, mind you, as well. So it's pretty expensive for 2 people, I would say, overall. So after that, I checked the app again and the castle ride was open. So we're like, yay, the castle ride's open. Let's go over. We went over there. They had express pass. We went through the express pass. So the express pass, again, you still wait a little bit, but again, not super long there. I think maybe we waited like 10 to 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. I think the queue is so cool because you go through the castle, and that's like one of the most fun parts is like being in the castle, being like immersed in that land in the castle. The castle has so many cool elements as well. There are a lot of like screens as well here. So it's it's not like all animatronics or anything, but so cool to be in the castle. We get towards the ride. I'm getting really excited because I'm just like, what if it doesn't hold up to my memories? Like, what if it's like lame or it's like, you know, it's been 11 years, it's new technology. And I will say it still holds up. I still think that is one of the best rides I've ever been on in my whole life. Okay. Out of all the rides, I've been to many parks. I haven't been to Asian parks. No, Asia has way better parks than us. Still one of the most cool rides I'd ever been on. Like I still think it stands the test of time. So cool when we went on it. And even Ted said as well, it was a really cool ride. Like he really enjoyed it as well. So I will say it's not just me who thinks his ride's really cool. Ted also really loved it. I will say the plot of this ride makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Or maybe, you know, let's go into the spoilers actually. So maybe just skip ahead like 3 minutes if you don't want to hear the spoilers for the castle ride. Essentially, the ride itself is telling you that you're going to the Quidditch pitch with Harry and his friends. You're a muggle, and he's going to put you on this flying bench. Like they're gonna like enchant a bench so the bench can fly as well with them. And he's going to show you some Quidditch stuff essentially. When you get there, Hagrid immediately loses a dragon, and the dragon comes and attacks you. After that, you get lost in the Forbidden Forest, and that's when you see like the giant spiders like Aragog and stuff like that. Then you make it to the Quidditch pitch, and then the Dementors come out of nowhere and attack you on the Quidditch pitch. Then you have a whole scene with the Dementors, and it's funny because it's like, can you imagine if all 3 of those things happened in one day? It's like that just would never.
Harry Potter.
That would never. As soon as a dragon just happens to be set loose on the grounds, I think the Quidditch match would have been canceled. Like the Quidditch which match didn't even start yet, and a dragon was loose on the ground. It's like, I'm sorry, that just wouldn't have happened. Like the fact is, like at the Dementors too and everything, it's just like this is like it's like I feel like they just want to squeeze in every of like all the big characters and all like jump scares and all like the favorite things into the ride essentially, which I appreciate and I think it works fine for the ride. But after you get off and you think about it, you're like, what was that? Like that storyline made no sense. Like they truly just wanted to shove everything into that ride, and it's worth it. It is so cool. The animatronics on this ride, absolutely incredible. You get so up and close to them. Like, you know, when you're on the Little Mermaid ride and you're like inches from Ursula, it's like that with everything. But these creatures are huge, like a full life-size dragon, like a full life-size, like, you know, one of those big spiders. It's like how close you get to these items is to me what the coolest part is like how amazing it is, honestly. And again, it's just so fun. Like I can't describe like the ride mechanism. It's like you're on this bench, but like it swings you around. It doesn't go upside down, but you're on your back sometimes. Like I think you could definitely go on it. I think maybe you'd be a little scared.
No.
But there's times where like I think my foot is gonna, like, if I extended my foot, I would touch the dragon. You know, it's like that's how close you get to these spiders.
Things. Because I watched the movie and when the spiders came out, I had to close my eyes.
Yeah, you're on this thing and your feet dangle. So when your feet are dangling, you're like, oh my gosh, I was like screaming the whole time. Like,
no.
I recorded it the second time when I went on, but
I had to close my eyes at the movie, let alone things. And I've only seen the first.
I know. So no, you've seen the second Spiders and Chamber of Secrets. That's the second movie.
Okay.
So anyway, so cool. I love this ride so much. Sorry, we had to get into the spoilers for this ride because this is like my favorite ride. So, I love this ride so much. I thought it was so cool. I absolutely love it. I would always recommend it. I think it's worth it. I think they did a phenomenal job on this ride. I think Disney needs a ride like this. I don't know. I off the top of my head, I can't think of a character or storyline they should do a ride like this with. But Disney definitely needs to do a ride like this because it is so cool and it is so fun and it's so different and it's like a thrill ride, but it's not like a roller coaster is a thing too. Like I always appreciate a thrill ride that's not a roller coaster. So we get off that ride, and at this point I was just like, well, do we want to stay in Islands of Adventure? Because that's what I thought we were going to do. And Ted's like, no, let's take the train over to Universal Studios and do the other side of Harry Potter World. So I was like, okay, sounds good. So we go over to the Hogwarts Express, and again, we have Express Pass. Express Pass works for that too. So you just get on the train faster. Essentially, you're like guaranteed to get on the next train. Essentially, so we get on the next train, which is really cool. And I had been on the train before. So when I went 11 years ago, Diagon Alley was not open yet, but the train was open, so you could still do the train even though Diagon Alley wasn't open yet. So I remember doing the train. I remember thinking it was really cool. So we went on the train. It has like a little story. And I will say we only ever did Islands of Adventure to Universal Studios, but I have heard that the train ride is different both ways. So if we had gone from Universal Studios to Islands of Adventure, the train ride would be different. Because here we're going from like the school, like Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, over to Diagon Alley, which is in London, versus like London going to school, so to speak. So it is different, but we only saw it one way, just the way we end up doing the parks. So we get on the train, we get off. It's so funny being in like when you get to Diagon Alley in London, because you're supposed to be in King's Cross, right? And I've been in King's Cross before, so it's so funny to see because it does look like King's Cross. It looks like a much smaller version than King's Cross, and there's certain things that's supposed to be like British, right? So it's like, oh, like the pram service and certain things. The one thing they didn't do right is that all the exit signs still said exit, which is in England they always say way out. They don't use the word exit. It always says way out. So I'm like, it should say way out, not exit. But it's funny because he was like, oh, should you take a photo and send it to Abby? Abby is my friend who lives in England. Like she was born and raised in England. I was like, should I tell her? Is like try to trick her to think I'm in King's Cross right now or something. We did not do that, but it was funny though. Then when you get out, it's supposed to be like you're on a street in London, but Universal Studios, it's much more open, I would say, to a certain extent. So it's like, it's not as if like you're as immersive on a London street, but it's supposed to be like one side, supposed to be a London street. Now again, I had never seen Diagon Alley because I didn't see this 11 years ago. When we're walking through, we walk past this little entrance and there's a lot of people coming in and out of the entrance. And I said, I think that's the entrance to Diagon Alley. And because me and Ted literally were going to walk right past it. Now for my mom, so in the movie, the way you get to Diagon Alley, it's hidden from muggles, right? So you have to like tap your wand on certain little bricks and the entrance will open magically for you. And that I thought was the coolest thing because it's behind a brick wall essentially. You have to go behind this wall and then Diagon Alley is there. Okay. That was one of the coolest things. I think it's even in the video, I was like so amazed because I didn't know that's how it was going to be like. And legit, we almost walked right past it. We didn't know that's how you had to enter Diagon Alley.
You just been a muggle.
Yeah, like the immersiveness of it was just so cool. I feel like this whole episode I think is just going to be Harry Potter. Maybe we have to split this into two episodes.
We have to split this into another podcast.
We're at 30 minutes. We're not even to like all the Harry Potter stuff. Oh my goodness. So we'll see. But anyway, so we get into Diagon Alley. Absolutely phenomenal. Now at this point though, we're already into the day, right? So it's like we already had our lunch that took like an hour at 12. It's like we've already done the castle. We've already done the train. So it's like 1:30 at this point. So we get there. So it's very crowded when we're there. I did take lots of photos and videos, but there were people everywhere, I will say, because we're already at like the height of the day, so to speak. So people everywhere, but it's so amazing to see. We go into Ollivanders first. That is the funny part. There's an Ollivanders Ollivanders in Hogsmeade. In the story, in canon, there's only one Ollivanders that's in Diagon Alley. But of course, I'm sure when they opened Hogsmeade in the Hogwarts castle first, they probably didn't know they were going to do Diagon Alley at that point.
Yeah.
So there's technically two Ollivanders in this, and that's the wand shop, like where you get the wands.
Okay.
We go into the wand shop. It's really cool in Ollivanders. We leave the wand shop. As soon as we leave, at the end of Diagon Alley is Gringotts Bank, and there's a scene in the very final book where they escape Gringotts Bank on the back of a dragon. So at the top of Gringotts Bank is like the dragon that they escape from, and that's just like part like a sculpture, so to speak. So when we're there, everyone is standing outside when we get out of Ollivanders with their phones up recording the dragon. So I knew what was going to happen because the dragon breathes fire. So I immediately take my phone out and I'm ready to. It's like, all right, we're going to record. And Ted's like, what's going on? What's everyone doing? Why are we all recording, looking up at this dragon? And in my head, I'm like, what do you think is going to happen? I realized he has not seen that it's going to breathe fire. And I don't know how often it breathes fire. Like, we just happened to walk out at the perfect time that it was going to breathe the fire. So, and he was saying, he's like, you knew it was going to breathe fire. I'm like, yeah, I thought you would have known too. Like, what else do you think the dragon's going to do up there that everyone's pointing their phone towards the dragon in the sky?
Gonna take off.
I know, right? So we got a really cool video of the dragon breathing fire, which was really cool because apparently it only happens a few times a day. So it was fun to capture during that time of the day.
Place.
I also think Diagon Alley does a really great thing with like the forced perspective, where it's like certain things are big and small the way you're there. That's like the way they do it is just really clever. And you can tell because some people broke the forced perspective. Like there are certain stairs that you could sit on, but the way the stairs works makes it look like he's going back into an alley. But if someone's sitting at the top of those stairs, you realize like how small those stairs actually were. So they broke the forced perspective. But again, the way it was crafted is just so well done, honestly. The detail is really cool. I didn't even look in every window, honestly, because there was just so many windows and so many things to see. There were also a lot of people there, so a lot of people blocking the windows, like sitting on like the little windowsills and stuff. Again, we walked around for a while, and then we decided that we wanted to do the ride here. So the ride is Escape from Gringotts. So again, like I said, like you escape on the back of the dragon. So that's what the ride is here. So we go into Gringotts Bank. They did have Express Pass, so we went to the Express Pass line. You do walk through the main, I guess I would say, lobby of Gringotts. So again, we have seen the real set that they actually used for Harry Potter in England when we went to that Watford, experience when we were there. So to see this was really cool. It is a little bit smaller than the real set, I would say. And I feel like it was, I don't know how to describe it. It's a little bit smaller, as I think I would say. And I feel like the colors were a little bit different. But I don't know if that's because the one in England is fully enclosed in the building. So they have full on like stage lights on it. Whereas
as opposed to natural.
Yeah, this one has some real windows. So there is natural light coming in. So I feel like the coloring of some of the things were off. But it could just be because of the actual natural light from real life Florida rather than just the stage lights in England. Right. So, but in here too, what I really like is that they actually have the goblins there. So it looks like the goblins are actually at the tellers like working. And I will say that is really cool to see. And I think some of the goblins you can interact with. We didn't interact with any of the goblins. I just took some videos and photos of them. But it was cool to see the goblins. In the queue, you go like down underneath into the bank. And then I will say I didn't really understand the full plot of the ride. I kind of got confused a little bit. Even right now, I haven't even Googled it. So I don't even really know what we were doing. We essentially were going to a certain bank, like one of the vaults to get something. And then we were going to leave with it. And then Charlie was there. Charlie is Ron Weasley's brother who like deals with dragons. So that's like your hint that there's going to be a dragon and stuff. But then like, yeah, I will say I don't even really understand what the plot was overall. So I'm not going to get into the plot at all for this ride because I didn't even fully get what we were doing, if I'm being honest. I did think the ride was very cool though. Now, this is where we're going to get into where a lot of the Universal rides kind of follow the same structure. And we found this out pretty quickly going on. But a lot of the rides, you basically sit in a 4x3. So you have three rows of 4 seats. And this thing will close on the side of you. And then when you're there, Gringotts is more of a roller coaster type ride. So it's kind of like the Mummy ride that we're going later. But it's a roller coaster ride, but it kind of like swings you around a lot. And you have your little glasses on, like the 3D glasses. And there's a lot of 3D stuff. It's also 4D because like when they like the water spits at you, you feel the water spit at you. And so this one wasn't too bad, I would say, because it's the first one we went on. But I did say it was dizzying in the sense that the 3D stuff was kind of confusing sometimes. I feel like they used multiple screens to show the 3D. And so with that, it like made it kind of confusing. Plus, I couldn't really hear what they were saying, like what the characters were saying in the ride, because there was no animatronics really in this ride for the most part. It was all screens like with the 3D glasses. And when they were talking, I feel like I had no idea what they were saying. Like I wasn't really sure what anyone was saying. So I kind of got confused. I feel like it just happened so fast to a certain extent. Like the ride was very fast. So it's just like, all right, I don't know what's going on. And then you get off the ride. So it's like, well, that's it. So what I thought was cute is that when you get back, it's supposed to be like you survive, so to speak. So the Universal workers were like applaud for you to get back. It's like, oh, you survived like the dragon escape or something like that. Which is funny because that's also where you board the ride. So before you get on the ride, the workers are clapping for the last people to get off the ride, which is just like kind of weird. And we had multiple rides where the workers did that. They would clap for you to get off the ride. It's just like, I don't know. I thought that was very interesting.
Okay.
So at this point now, we are 36 minutes into recording this podcast episode, and we were only at 2:40, about 3 p.m. in the day on our first day.
I think you should do one day and another day.
Yeah, so maybe we will cut off off this episode here because for the most part, this is like all of Harry Potter world. So at this point, at this point, after we were done with the Gringotts, we kind of got off. We walked around Diagon Alley more. We went through Nocturne Alley. Nocturne Alley was so cool. That was one of the absolute coolest parts of like entire Diagon Alley area was Nocturne Alley. You essentially walk underneath. So Nocturne Alley is supposed to be like the sketchy area, so to speak, of the area. You walk underneath and you're fully enclosed. So it's like, it's nighttime, you know, so to speak, you know, even though it's like daytime everywhere else. And they have these insane projections like on the ceiling of like, you know, like these like weird stars and like the dark, like the Death Eater type stuff going on. And so cool. They have this thing and they know that if you have one of the interactive wands, there's really cool like interactive wand things you can do. So I was watching people do that. They now have, I kid you not, we were there the next day after we left, they launched the Gen 2 wands. When we were there, the Gen 2 wands were not launched, but now you can do the Gen 2 wands where you can like fight a Death Eater there and you can fight like a Dementor. So you can actually create a Patronus and stuff like that. Like you set your wand to what your Patronus is. You can do the Patronus there. It's very cool, honestly. That whole area I thought was so cool. They also have Borgs and Burks as well, which is one of like the creepy stores, so to speak. It's easier for my mom to do that. But, like one of the like the creepy selling stores, like one of those like, you know, secondhand type stores, like all like the nefarious things are sold. That store is there, which was also really cool as well. I walked through it. They had the vanishing cabinet in there, which is very cool to see. I took a really good photo of that. So the vanishing cabinet is the thing that they use. My mom doesn't know anything about Harry Potter, so this is all just words to her.
Don't know anything about Harry Potter.
But the vanishing cabinet was cool, and you can hear the little bird tweeting inside of it as well, which I thought was like really cool as well. I love that little detail that you could hear the bird. So then we left Nocturne Alley. I was wearing my Flourish and my Flourish and Blots shirt, so I took a photo in front of Flourish and Blots. It's not a real store; it's just a storefront. So in Harry Potter world, that's like the bookstore, but it's not a real store actually in Diagon Alley. But that does have a really nice facade. I do have to Photoshop the girl that's out with it because she was a girl like right next to me, and it's like, all right, she needs to go. So that's why I haven't posted that photo, is because I need to Photoshop that photo. Okay. Then we went into the Wizarding Weasley's, like, you know, the Fred and George's store. That store was so fun, honestly. It is very fun. It is very whimsical. It's funny because they sell a lot of really cool stuff in that store that I wasn't expecting to see. So for instance, they sell like these little puzzles and games, like actual real puzzles and games and stuff like that. Because essentially the store is supposed to be like a jokester store. So it's like they sell all these like little jokester things like in the movies. So here they had some like the jokester things that were in the movies, but then they had like real actual stuff, like real puzzles, real thing, like brain teaser type items that they had in the store, which is also really cool because like I wasn't expecting that. And they had a lot of stuff in the store, I would say too. And this store is connected to another like kind of sweets type store, and then also one for like Quidditch type stuff. So I walked through all three stores. Ted really wanted a Harry Potter t-shirt, but I will say none of the Harry Potter t-shirts were really good designs. We went through every single clothing store that was possible on both sides of the parks, and neither of us found a shirt that we liked. Just personal preference, I would say overall, but really none of the designs did anything for us. I've seen better stuff on like Etsy and like elsewhere, just in my personal opinion. So yeah, so we didn't get anything, you know, in either of these stores we walked around. And then something else I would note too, for both sides of Harry Potter world, for the stores at least, I felt like the stores were pretty crowded. A lot of people walking around and looking at stuff, but no one really buying anything is what I noticed. So like even the workers themselves there were kind of just standing there like talking to each other. You know, it's like no one was like,
no one was online to pay. They just
no one was checking
around.
out. Yeah, like if I wanted to check out, you could check out instantly. Like there was no line at any store to check out, even at Ollivander's, no line at all to check out in any of these stores, which was interesting. Like when I was looking back on it, even in the moment I said to Ted, it's just like, how come no one's buying anything here?
Because their merchandise is not as good and it's overpriced.
That's what I was thinking. That it's just like, I think a lot of stuff was expensive. The one thing Ted liked actually was a sweater. So it's famous in the movies that like Molly Weasley like knits these like sweaters with the big letters on it. So one of the sweaters Ted saw and he really liked the sweater, but the sweater was like $110. And I was like, even though it did seem like a pretty good quality sweater, he was like, well, I'm not going to spend $110 on the sweater. And I was like, yeah, neither would I, honestly. Also, like, you're in Florida, so it's hot. So you're not really in like sweater mood, you know, so to speak right now. So, but yeah, but I thought that was interesting. That's like, yeah, all the stores, no lines for anything. Maybe it was just when we were there, who knows? And you can buy the Harry Potter stuff, not in the Harry Potter world. Like there's obviously other stores in Universal and stuff like that. You can buy stuff.
Too. So it's not like you just have to buy it while you're
That's
in
what I'm
Harry
saying.
Potter
So it's
world.
possible maybe people bought stuff in other parts of the park. I don't know. So you know, who knows, honestly. But I mean, like being in the areas themselves, I feel like I did notice a lot of people were dressed up in the items. So for instance, if you bought like the robes and the tie and like the school uniform,
they were wearing it.
A lot of people were wearing their stuff. A lot of kids especially were like in the full Harry Potter gear, which I thought was really cute actually, to see kids in like the full Harry Potter gear, because I've never really seen that before, honestly. And I haven't even gone into the interactive wand stuff. So on the second day, so when we went back the second day, we did the other parts of the park instead. On the second day, we did go into the castle ride again. So we did the castle ride a second time, which is why the Express Pass Unlimited was beneficial for that, because we could use it a second time there. And I did buy a wand. Now in the parks, they only sell the interactive wands in the parks. They don't really sell a lot of like just the plain wands, I guess I would say. There are some plain wands where it says with certain purchases, you get like a free wand, which is like the free plain wands that are like the $20 wands. They're just a piece of wood. But otherwise, all the other wands are interactive wands. And for the most part, they were all around the same price. So I got Hermione Ranger's wand for $70. So I did think that was very expensive. Now I realized too, at the time I didn't realize it was an interactive wand. I just thought it was a regular wand. So I was like, wow, $70 for this little piece of wood is kind of insane. But we were already paying for it. So it's like, well, we already bought it. So it's like, now I'm just holding this wand in my hand. I already have it. So then I realized that like, oh, it is an interactive wand. It's the Gen 1 interactive wand. So when you buy the wand, I was kind of a dummy dum-dum. I didn't realize this, but it came with a map, but the map was of like Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley. And I just thought it was a map. I'm like, wow, cool, a map. I put that back in the box and never looked at it again. And it was funny because when I saw other people doing the interactive stuff, I was like, how do they know like what to do? Like when they get to interact.
Where everything
the map tells you what it is.
So
the
you
map
have to bring it with you next time.
And there are spots like a very clear like marking on the ground, like where you stand. So I could see the spots and be like, oh, I know where you stand for it, where it's obvious. But it's like there are certain movements you have to do with the wand for like the magic to work, so to speak. You know, as if you have, you know, like you're really doing the spell, you know, of course. And I was thinking, it's like, how do people realize that? And yet in the map, it tells you all the spots, all the interactive spots for you to stand, and like what motion you have to do the wand and what word you have to say. When you get to the spot, it's kind of funny because there is a very obvious camera next to where the interactive thing is.
They're watching
that is
you,
very clearly looking
going,
at you, watching you do the thing for the interaction to happen, which I think is so funny because I saw the first camera, I was kind of like, what is that? And then when I was seeing another family do the interactive stuff, the person says like, oh, the camera's right there, make sure the camera can see you so that you can do the magic, which is just so funny if you think about it. It's just like not us just being full on muggles, just pretending like magic is real. So,
all right, well, the next time you won't be a muggle.
Yeah, it honestly was like pretty funny to be like how obvious that these cameras had to be there so they could see you. Now I say I watched a lot of people do the interactive wand stuff and it didn't always work. Like there are definitely a few ones that were not working at all and other ones where it was very finicky, where like I think if you didn't do it exact, it was not going to work. So I think it kind of depends. The interactions all really ranged as well, from like just making things float to making things like open or close to like moving things around. There were a few that I think that had like parts to them, so you had to do part 1 and then part 2. So like one was like a flower opened and then after like the leaves opened, then the flower would blossom or something like that. So like some of them had like multiple parts to them, which again was really cool to see. There were a lot of interactive things, and it's also again later in the day, it's pretty obvious too because there's lines to do this. So you'll see the line.
People are standing on line to do it.
Yeah, so you'll start to see the very obvious lines to like for people to do the interactions. And so sometimes the lines would build up because if someone couldn't get the interaction to work, they would be there for a while trying to get it to work, especially if it was like a kid. Like you don't want to tell a kid, well, move if you can't do it.
Yeah,
you know,
do that,
it's like your parents trying to take a photo of you, you know, doing this and stuff like that. So like some of the lines were building up, especially in Diagon Alley because we were there later in the day. Also, we were there late in the day. I'm blanking on the name of it, but the ice cream parlor that's in Diagon Alley had a long line that wrapped around the building. It was wild how long that line was. Now, this is the ice cream parlor that Harry famously gets his ice cream from in Diagon Alley, which is why I'm assuming it was long. Also, it was very warm this day. The last few days, it was raining and cold, but this day the sun was out. It was very warm. So I think if there was no line, maybe we would have thought about getting ice cream, but we didn't get anything. We literally didn't eat anything in the park for the rest of the day. So, but yeah, so after this point, again, it's almost like 3 p.m. at this point, and we're like, well, we've spent basically the full day just doing Harry Potter stuff. Maybe we should venture out and see what the rest of the parks have to offer. And yeah, that is when we will leave this episode for today. So for now, we will just go over, we have no Disney news, obviously, because again, this is a very pre-recorded episode, but we will do some Disney birthdays instead. So first up there's only one Disney birthday. On April 4th, it's Maria Hill's birthday, who's from the Marvel series. And then also for Disney birthdays, or for birthdays in general, on April 1st, it is my uncle's birthday. On April 2nd, it is my birthday.
It's Amanda's birthday.
On April 3rd is my Aunt Rosie's birthday. And on April 4th, sharing with Maria Hill, is my best friend Allison's birthday. So a lot of personal birthdays this week. And this is also my birthday episode too, which I didn't realize when I was starting to put this together.
It's a fun episode for you. Yeah,
my birthday episode is universal. But yeah, if there's anything I could say, I 100% think that Harry Potter World is absolutely worth it. I thought it was so fun. If I had to rank the lands, I would say overall, like even with Disneylands, I do think these lands may rank higher than some of the Disneylands. But I think they do have the unfair advantage that it comes from the movies. And if you really love the books and the movies, then you're gonna really like Harry Potter World, honestly, because it's so immersive in that sense. And I think, and Disney does a really great job too at being immersive for like their lands as well. But again, you gotta have the competition, and the competition does stand, I would say, overall. So I'm very curious to see how the Ministry of Magic is gonna go in Epic Universe, the new park, because again, they're expanding Harry Potter World, especially considering the amount of, like, if you can kind of tell too that Hogsmeade and Hogwarts Castle was the first thing that they did, and it was a success. Because then when you get to Diagon Alley, so much more detail, so much more immersiveness within Diagon Alley itself, like so much more to it. You could tell they were like, oh, this was successful, we're gonna make money on this, we're gonna go all out, which is why I'm excited from the Ministry of Magic, because at this point they would have already known our last 2 lands were so successful, the third land is probably going to be even better.
Right.
Now the third land's interesting because it's the Ministry of Magic. The Ministry of Magic is just the government, of Harry Potter World, which is fun to be like, let's introduce the government to children these days. Like how much more internal government politics do we need in our lives, but that is what it's going to be. And I actually haven't heard anything so far about the Ministry of Magic. There has been very few reviews on it. It's been like the one land so far in Epic Universe has been closed off to like the cast member previews and stuff like that. So I haven't heard much about it. It'll be very interesting when that opens. So, but all right, we will do a part 2 to Universal that will get into the rest of the Universal parks plus my overall thoughts about Universal. I would say just real quick for Harry Potter World, I do think the Express Lane Unlimited, the Express Pass was worth it, but I don't think you need Express Pass Unlimited. I think it's probably worth it just to go on once for these rides.
Just go on once, and well, if you have to go again, now that you've been on the rides, you go on once.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'd
so
be
you
enough.
Probably just go on once. I will say I did love the castle ride so much. I probably will go on the castle ride again and again just because I just loved it that much. And I didn't love Gringotts ride as much to go on it again and again. If I could go on Hagrid's again, I probably would. But again, they don't have Express Pass. And the Hippogriff ride, it's cute, but you know, it's just like a little kid's coaster. So you could go on a second time if you wanted to. But the castle ride is what you'd really want. So, but all right, we will do a part 2 to Universal that I was not expecting to do because we're blabbering on. We're at 48 minutes right now recording. Okay. Of course, I'm going to cut this back a little bit. So. Okay. All right, thank you everyone for listening. We didn't do a Disney memory. Did you want to do a Disney memory?
Well, my memory, I do have a memory of Universal. I remember that you were very young and we could not go on 98% of the rides. We were there with my husband's family and they all wanted to go on the big rides. And unfortunately, I had Amanda who was like, I don't know, a couple of years old. I don't forget how old you were, but
I was very young.
You couldn't go on anything. And the only thing I remember is I wanted to see the Blues Brothers because they do have the Blues Brothers who perform on their New York street. And it was raining and we stood in a doorway and you and I stood there and watched the Blues Brothers. And I remember that. I also remember going to the E.T. ride in which it kept breaking down.
Yeah.
We got all the way to the front after it broke down 4 or 5 times. We're on this big long line and Amanda said, I'm not going on that.
Yeah.
So we ended up not even doing that.
So let me tell you, I did go on the E.T. ride this time.
Yes.
And if you stick around for part 2 next week, I will give you the full scope.
Okay. Well, she wouldn't go on it. We got all the way to the front.
No, when I was a kid, I was very scared.
Yes, we got all the way to the front and she said, I'm not going on this. So we just walked away.
I was very scared of the E.T. ride, that's for sure.
So those are that's my memories of Universal. I was not impressed.
We'll leave it on a cliffhanger because I have more thoughts I have a lot of thoughts about Universal and opinions on the parks. But again, for Harry Potter World on its own, I think it's worth it just to go for Harry Potter World, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. Even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, I think it'd be really interesting to see.
I could see Harry Potter fans, it would being worth it for them to go and see this.
I think even for people who don't like Harry Potter or fantasy stuff like that, I still think it's worth it to go. It's interesting. Right. I think the rides are very fun objectively on their own as well. But I think especially if you've ever liked the Harry Potter movies or the books, I've always been more into books than the movies. Obviously, this is more movie canon than book canon. But either or, I still think it's absolutely phenomenal. Okay. Definitely worth it. Universal, and I feel like too, when we get into part 2, I think that this is definitely the area that Universal upkeeps more than some of the other areas of the park in my opinion. So, all right, but thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Make sure you give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or leave a comment down below on our brand new dedicated YouTube channel for this podcast. Again, we have more Universal content to come. I didn't know that when we started this episode. So very excited.
Amanda's had a lot to say about Disney, Universal, whatever. I missed a lot while I was sick. Okay.
All right, but we will definitely fill everyone in on more thoughts on Universal in the next episode to come. But until then, we'll see you.